Everlasting love. Is it a thing? My name's Dimple Thakrar. After 30 years of being married with my beloved when this film was recorded, having been with him 36 years, and it's not been the easiest of marriages. It's not been a fairy tale. It was a fairy tale at the beginning. And this question I often get asked by the hundreds of couples that I have supported, particularly, in fact, all of them, entrepreneurial couples, both in person and in groups. And this question, does love last? Is it enough? What I can tell you about this is that love evolves. It's a strange feeling. The love that I have for this beautiful man I'm chosen to be with for the rest of my life has evolved. It's not the same love that I had for him when I was 17. And the love that I had for him when I was 27 and 37 and 47, very different. Why? Because the love I have for me has changed. The way I loved myself at 17 was very insecure, very needy, very dependent, very codependent. And therefore the match that I was that kind of love, right? One that needed to take care of me, one that needed to need me, right? One that he needed to feel I needed him. It's very different to the love now, which is a love of mutual respect, honoring our differences, because I have worked on knowing who I am and what love is to me, what deep, mature, respectful love is to me. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Who am I when I'm being that woman? And as a result, who is he? What does that give him permission to be? Because for a long time, through our first and second decade, we were just being pleasers. We were going through love conditionally. I will give to you as long as you give to me. I will please you, but you have to please me also. Whether we said it or not is irrelevant. There was an undertone of it, unconscious energy of it. Well, I'm doing this for you, and what have you done for me? And even sometimes conversations would reflect that. Well, I've done the dishes, what have you? I've done this, and what have you done? Yeah, well, I've been doing this and this, and it was very competitive conversation. There was still love there, but it was a very unhealthy codependent, built on needing to fix each other and needing to make each other wrong in order for us to feel right. But the truth is, love can last if you're both willing to do the work. What does that mean? You know, it drives me crazy sometimes when I hear it, do the work. What does that actually mean? What the work actually means is to take full radical self-responsibility of where your life is at and how your partner is showing up with you. Because how they are showing up with you is just a mirror on where you need to go deeper. When he triggers me, I'm like, why is that triggering me? What is he showing me? Oh, this happened to me as a child. That's what needs cleaning up. Sometimes just that awareness clears it. Sometimes just speaking it clears it, right? Because then you're not blaming them. You're taking full responsibility and articulating it. There was, I'll give you an example. There was a moment, probably in our second decade of our marriage, where I would get really triggered by my husband's tone. It would be a shouty tone, and I would get really, really triggered by it. And I would not say anything to him, but I would scream back because I wasn't even aware of what was going on. And it was only when I went, wait a minute, why is this cycle happening again? What is it about him that is making me be the crazy lady and shout back, roar back? And I realized the meaning I'd put on his tone was from when I was a little girl. When I heard that tone in a male voice, it meant danger. So I was defending myself. It was an automatic response. I was roaring like a lioness, and it had zero to do with what he was saying. It was all a trigger from his tone. So when I articulated that with him in a calm way, I said, babe, I've just realized this about me. I get triggered by your shouty voice. because of this. And I explained, because when I was a little girl, the male authority in our home, when that happened, it meant danger. And I was scared. And so now as a woman, I'm protecting that inner little girl, and I am roaring. I am so sorry for doing that. That isn't your fault. And then I got curious. I actually said to him, wait a minute, can I ask you, what does that voice mean to you? When you use that voice, what does it mean to you? And he said, oh my God, I had no idea is what happens to you with that voice. When I use it, is passion. I'm being passionate about what I'm speaking about. Can you imagine if we hadn't have had that conversation? We were both misfiring and communicating completely differently, because in his frame of the world, he's grown up with 3 men in the house. I've grown up with 4 women in the house. That tone he used in a house full of men meant that he got heard. So he used that tone because he's passionate about it and wanted to be heard. But that in my house meant that somebody was shouting at you and there's going to be danger. Emotional, physical, spiritual danger. So just by taking radical self-responsibility of loving yourself, going inwards, not blaming your beloved, your husband, your partner, but actually going, what is it in me that needs healing? And how can I take responsibility of this? What is it in me that desperately wants to be healed, that keeps coming up? Why am I reacting like this? This is not who I am. That's love. That's deep love. And that's the kind of lasting love, not the fairy tale love, the deep, lasting love that you can hold for yourself. Because when you give yourself permission to have that for you, it gives everybody else around you permission to have it for themselves. You role model it. Your kids, your husband, everybody. Now that kind of love is a spiritual connection way beyond physical lust. Not that you don't need that. That's fun also. And it's important, even more so, the longer your relationship is. So being intentional with the different types of love, spiritual, emotional, physical, that you can have with yourself. You know, there are times when I really need a hug and my husband's not available for that, or my children aren't available for that. I literally hug myself. All right, I can have everlasting love with me first. I can hold me first. I can nurture me first. That's what everlasting love is. Can you take care of you first without needing to make a reason or an excuse for who you are? Can you love you fully, completely, wholly, even while being in a relationship? Sometimes relationship experts will say, figure you out first before you get into a relationship. There's pros and cons to that. I actually believe that figuring out who you are while in a relationship is the fastest way to do it, because you end up, the relationship is a catalyst. It shows you mirrors. It's easy to work on yourself by yourself because there's nobody to trigger you, right? So in my experience, what's been the most expensive is working on myself while in a relationship. And it's not for everybody, and I get that. And for some people, they prefer to be completely whole before they enter a relationship. I just wonder whether you ever fully reach wholeness before a relationship. Just my personal opinion. So, does love last forever? Yes, it does. Can it last forever? Yes, it can. But is it the same love as at the beginning? No, it transmutes over and over and over again at a rate that you both decide, at a pace that you both decide. And I honestly believe that we have soul contracts. I believe my husband and I have a soul contract to teach each other lessons in this lifetime. And if we don't learn them in this one, we then get to learn them in the next. That's for another conversation. If you have found this conversation useful, please watch the next video, please subscribe and share this with your friends. I do this work because my mission is to halve the divorce rate. Why? Not because I don't believe in divorce, but because I believe that half the people that get divorced could have saved their marriages. If we transmute the definition of what real love is, what a marriage is, so that we have healthy role models for our next generation, so there are fewer single parent families trying to do the best they can, right? Because then we perpetuate that same problem. Let's flick the switch together. Why don't we have it where people genuinely invest in healing themselves and their marriages, and then having the most extraordinary marriages? Why not? It's available for us all. It just requires us to do the work. Thank you so much for your time. Watch the next video. Take care.